Join us for an enlightening experience where you will gain a deeper understanding of the purpose and essence of opening your eyes. This is your chance to enhance self-awareness and personal growth with a shift in perception that provides a fresh outlook on life. Embrace the journey from consciousness to superconsciousness. Coming live by Barrett Kunyan.
Hi, Lee Mudway, guardian of. It's lovely to see you as usual. I just love being in your company, brother. If I may, down, guardian of GPMS, GPMS.world, which stands for Global People's Monetary System. Welcome to.
Thank you, brother. It's a pleasure to be here. It's one of the roles. Sorry, my friend. There's a little bit of a delay in the talking, but that's okay. The guardianship of GPMS is part of the role. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to where this goes.
Yeah, we're going. I just wanted to take before we start on the hot topic of dispelling illusions. I'd like to take the opportunity to send get well best wishes to Jess Howe from the Missing Link. He recently had a double hip operation, so it was a double hip operation. So he's not in a good place at the moment, but speedy recover, brother. So so it's dispelling illusions, brother. I mean,
I've got to say, I love Barrett so much, and we've just been talking about an hour ago, maybe 2 hours ago. So just for whoever sees this, so we can start this off on a completely comfortable and friendly term. The Barrett and I was speaking about, there is a certain amount of trepidation at this point, and I'm trying to alleviate that by just speaking freely and organically, brother. You be you, my friend, and just speak openly, and let's see where this goes.
Yes. So, brother, I mean, you bring it to me. Tell me what your understanding of, this so-called world that we're living in. This.
That's a deep one, my friend. That goes very deep. I mean, we're talking about the experience, the human experience, or more than that. See. In this dispelling illusions, in the thesis behind this, what we're talking to here is giving another narrative, or giving another perspective, giving more to what was taught as limited, and the constructs and the concepts that many carry as belief systems within them through the, let's say, control methods of a more nefarious species or more nefarious entities that have been prevalent really for a long time. And again, I'm not going to go into too much definition, just more experiential. We can look outside and see if we were looking for freedom and purity and all of these unregulated, open-hearted exchanges within each other, we can, or evidentially and experientially, we have not witnessed that. We have not experienced that. So why not? And these sort of things. So what I'd like to do is through these and develop with you, brother, is more narrative, more breaking down of that which is held as truth, when in fact it is very much the inverted opposite of the truth. So this is where you give me something that comes into you at the top of your head, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's. What is truth to you? I mean, what exactly is truth? And
this is a good point. So what can be known? And the truth is what you know. What do you know, as opposed to what you've been taught? Right. This is the beginning of questioning what it is that you believe yourself to be, what it is that you believe everything else to be, what is true and what isn't. And when you define these things, you take the time to spend a little bit of time to define things rather than thinking, but actually releasing the thought and feeling it. And I don't necessarily like to use those terminologies because it's too loose. But when you're not pulling up thinking and you can quieten the mind, which many try to do, and there's lots of different methodologies to do this. Then what happens is thoughts come up. Now, if you're not thinking them, and you can observe your thoughts, so if you can step away from what it is that you're thinking, step outside of them, observe your thoughts, quieten your mind if you can do well, when you can do this, and watch what thoughts come in. One of the interesting questions is, if you can stop, observe your thoughts, and then your thoughts come in, who's the observer? Because prior to you observing your thoughts, you thought you were them. Yeah. And this is where the thoughts are not you. You are not your thoughts. You are your knowing. But where's your knowing sit? And this is where we talk to the hearts and the other parts of the physical anatomy that have got an impact upon those emotions. Emotion. Let's just break some of this down. Emotion. Emariva. Energy in motion. Now, emotion doesn't carry pain. It doesn't carry negativity. It's what we attach to it. So whilst we think we are the thinking, when the emotion, the energy in motion is sparked from an event or whatever happens, we believe that emotion to be us, and it triggers a thinking which attaches to it. And then we describe or explain or feel that emotion based on that perspective overlay. When you realize the emotion doesn't carry any of that, it's your input to the emotion. Why would you choose to impact that with a negative? Can you not see the positive? And this is the choice. This is the choice that we all have. So many would say I don't want to experience pain. I've said this, I don't want to experience pain anymore. I've had enough of pain. So in the old terminology, I may have a symptom that would have been expressed as pain prior. Now I don't attach the descriptor to it. Now it's just an experience. I know it will pass. So why call it painful? It may be uncomfortable, but that's outside of my control. And what's happening there is more divine. There's more to this than we've been taught. So where we feel we are frail and weak and all of these things, and existentially limited, once you step past that and you say, well, am I frail? Am I weak? Am I existentially limited? Which is the inversion, if you will. So we're taught one thing, you step into the other. Then you can see that the pain or the suffering that maybe you may have undergone it got you to somewhere else. It wasn't pain. It was just a process. It was an experience. And, and then you can actually undergo the same experience without the descriptor, because you can be grateful for it, because it's going to get you to somewhere else. This is where inner child work and all of these things, they talk about shadow work and all of this. And it's great, all of the teachings are awesome for different individuals. But realistically, what you're doing is inverting. You're taking the anger, you're taking the blame, and you're turning it into acceptance and gratitude. It's fascinating, brother. It's fascinating. But again, that's kind of like an overview.
Is there a correlation with growing up pain? Because you can look at that physically, you can look at that emotionally, mentally, and how you connect when something is expanding, you feel as though you're letting go, and an element of fear might creep in. But that fear creeping in, where does it come from? Is it because a lot of people have used words, and I have to confess I have fallen a victim, which is a great thing. I picked up, there have been like certain implants in a system where there's been a bit of a bit more than manipulation. There's been quite a bit of a controlling system in place where it's like, so how does the pain fit in with that? When you have a realization that the connection between what is you, what is not you, because we can talk about a fictional or non-fictional character from the point of view that there has been some kind of indoctrination going on, and then you have one day a little wake up and then you realize, oh, that's interesting. That label is not me, but the real me is not a label. It's not, it's more what?
This is all
What do you
fear-based.
feel?
What you're talking to is all fear-based. Now, how many children? I mean, when you're talking about fear, it's imparted. So let me talk about. I underwent an interesting experience where I very, very, very nearly ended my time here in a state of despair, and I can reflect on that now. And I broke it all down, but realistically, this was. What I learned, what the divine angel that I actually reached out to at this point. One of the hardest things I ever did was ask for help at a point of despair, because beautifully, whenever I'd asked for something all the way through my previous experience, I didn't get it, and that was so. I'm so grateful for those that, even though I may have shown them something different at the time, they weren't going to give me what I wasn't going to give myself. So, the same thing with love, give me, I need love, I need love, I need love. You are love. But of course, all of these things you don't realize because they're never taught. They're never given to you from birth. And this was done nefariously, with intention, to create oppression and suppression and devalue the human soul, devalue each and every individual human to the point where they are good slaves. And this has been done. I doff my cap. It's been done on every single level of this experience to enable humanity to grow through this. Again, there's divine and we can look at it all as negative and nefarious, or we can look at it as the growth process for all of these beautiful human souls, brothers and sisters that are undergoing this human experience or have chosen to. So it was this realization that actually you weren't given, he told me at the time, this is before I knew much more, that you weren't given love from when you were born. And it took me a while to realize that nor was anybody else. And everybody was experiencing the same thing with their wants and desires in the external, and they were never taught, or we never learned. We were never given the information at the time, divinely or whatever, nefariously, to impact ourselves, to go back inside and stop wanting from the outside, but fill yourself up, fill your own cup. And then it can overflow to the outside rather than you needing anything coming back in. But in this process, I had to forgive all of myself, all the way through, every action that I'd made. But I took it back to zero. I took it back to the age of zero in birth, and then said all the way through, then I didn't know any better. And when you don't know any better, you can't blame yourself. Yeah. But when you do know better, then you make a change. And I reflected that into all of my encounters with everybody else, and my parents, my family, it doesn't matter who, everybody beautifully gave me exactly what I needed, let's say. And I forgave all of that. And in that time, there was such a release of anger. It didn't exist in me anymore. This distorted frequency that I'd lived with for 40 plus years into despair at the end had now dissipated, gone. Now what? Now it's like, wow, this is, my heart opened is one of the best ways I can describe it. The heart, the noise in my head that kept telling me all of these chaotic thoughts went into the center of my solar plexus. My heart opened up and like boom, 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 boom. I'm like, what's this? But of course I was, at this time, this is only sort of nearly 4 years ago, I had atheistic views. I didn't believe in anything outside of this, and I didn't know any better. So I'd gone the other way in the inversion. So in this forgiveness, then there became a realization that it wasn't to be forgiven. Nobody needed to be forgiven. And what they needed to be was accepted. Accept everything else, because now I didn't need anything from them or anything outside of me. I could accept everything for what they were. And then you become grateful. And I know you know very well, Barrett, about this gratitude part, where you become thankful and grateful for everything you didn't receive because it gave you so much more. and this is that progression, And so that was about 4 years ago. And that led me into, I've been what would be termed in the old world a conspiracy theorist for the best part of 40 or so years. And of course that puts you on the outside of society. You can never really conform, because you're always saying things that are non-conformist. And this is the progression. So when then I started to look into deeper metaphysics and deeper meanings, and in the suicide, I'd looked into the energy already, and I'd quantified in myself that I was not the physical, and I was more than that. You can't destroy energy. Energy just is transmuted. So in this, I kind of justified the ending of this into my energy will go somewhere else. Let's see what that is, because I've had enough of this. So there was an element of metaphysics inside my atheism. And it wasn't atheism at all. It's just another label. And that's subsequently opened up into, let's say, a divine guidance mechanism, a divine education system, that sent me on all sorts of different pathways. And my nature is to spend as long as I can to garner wisdom. Now, wisdom doesn't come from intelligence and book smarts. It comes from disseminating that intelligence, disseminating that information into a clear picture for you. And as you go through that process, you start to realize that a lot of that information doesn't make sense. It doesn't carry a coherence. It has no logic. There's no progression. And that means you can release it. You don't need to follow that as a concept. You can harmonize your own truth to a very small point. You don't need to know much to know everything. But you don't need to know much to know everything, because you know everything anyway. You know everything. You just don't need all of that now. So what do you need now? You need enough for the moment. And lots of people want to know what's going on in the future, what's going on here. And that's the fear mechanism of control. You need to control what's coming in. When you release that, you don't. So again, sorry, brother, that's a bit of a rant, but that's a little bit of a process I went through.
No, I really appreciate that information. Do you find that when more and more people are more anchored in the present, rather than my own personal take on being happy in yourself, being really content, and to find that peace of mind, and because you leave markers, you leave impressions, and it gives you a feedback. It makes you feel happy, or it doesn't make you so happy. But for me, happiness is a state of mind. It's not a particular place that I need to go somewhere to get really excited. Although it helps when the sun is shining, opposed to it being cloudy. But the fact that we, the opposite polarity is what, if you had just sun all the time, I don't know how I would feel. Maybe I would feel bored. I don't know. But the fact that you have these two contrasting differences, it brings some kind of balance, I guess. And I suppose the best. Yeah.
I thought you'd stop, brother.
I did. Yeah, no, I mean, is it fair to say that in order to understand something, you have to experience its opposite? Or not necessarily?
See, I'm going to say experientially that was the case. But I'm going to say that in the lines of conceptually, no. There is no reason to experience both sides. You can witness both sides and you can observe both sides. And then you can choose. But you haven't got to experience them unless you need to. We're going into a divine mechanism here, whereby each soul has a choice, a contract choice, if you will, as they progress through their experience. Now, we can talk to the mechanism as polar, but that's just part of the game. Once you realize it's polar, then you don't need to play the polar game. So yes and no. This is that paradox, brother. I'm not going to say yes, you need to experience both, but witness. Evidentially, that's what has happened, but it's not necessarily.
No, that makes sense. Is it fair to say that how people perceive and observe. Each one of us being unique, we have a unique frequency. So our ability to siphon information, translate information, everybody has a unique possible definition, although it may be far from a universal truth. But like you were saying, some beings need to experience, some people don't need to experience. But there's a fine balance, for example, because I witnessed a certain person, like my father at the moment, he's in a lot of pain, for example. He's not in a good place. And I know what the cause is, but he's almost alien to it, and is it my duty to try and explain to him, because he doesn't understand. He's so wrapped up in his pain, he can't release that ability to understand what's really going on. And it can be a bit frustrating sometimes, especially really close family opposed, but I treat personally myself, I see everybody as my family. I don't distinguish, although, from a bloodline, I mean, we're because I see from my non-biological parenthood kind of perspective that we're all brothers and sisters. But for a lot of people, I think for my dad is what one of the biggest pains has been. He's fearful of death, I think, deep down, and he quite hasn't understood the essence of all this struggle that he had from being.
There is this, Barrett. There is this at a certain point. I mean, I was again. My parents, they were. I loved them to bits, But if I looked at it from the old life, they were the opposite to what you would call loving, and all of these things. But that was perfect for me, and I walked away from all of that. I cut the ties with all of that 13, 14 years ago. So it's difficult for me to speak to others about what they should or shouldn't do. But what I will say is this: we attach ourselves to the psychophysical. What we see in the mirror, we attach ourselves to the story that we are taught, the belief systems of the psychophysical, the cultural stuff, this thing about I've got to help them. And what are they at essence? See, the psychophysical is part of the story, but then there's the metaphysical. And what is that? This is the bit that we're not taught. What are you in your essence and your soul? Yeah. What is your freak? What's the anima? What's the animator of this freak? What's the animator of this experience and this reality? What is that? And that's the metaphysical. So we attach ourselves very much to the psychophysical, and then we see everybody else as the human or the organic, and that's it. There's nothing more. And then we sympathize with them and fall into pity and fall into this feeling of I must help, negating the fact that they are an infinite being. They are a metaphysical being experiencing their own soul journey, where they must go through their own process of harmonizing the energies as per their soul contracts. And we can try to impact them, but in a method of thinking, are we going against what they are here to do? And we can get ourselves quite frustrated, used to. We can get ourselves quite pent up with why can't I help? Well, what makes you think you have to or you can help? What makes you think they need help? These are different ways of looking at it, and this is again, this is a little bit more into that wiser nature of love. And the higher thinking about what the soul is, and knowing it is infinite, and this is an experience, and dropping out of that idea that this is everything. It's in the grand scheme of things.
Very well said. I mean, reference. Sorry, I'll move away from the subject of my father, but with me, I've always said, and it has helped him because he's realized the word we used, gratitude, earlier, to be thankful.
Beautiful.
My eyes, it is, and usually he opens his eyes with a lot of anger, bitterness, betrayal, For me, if I had
do you recognize that anger in his eyes? Do you recognize that bitterness in his eyes? Do you recognize that betrayal from
don't actually. I tell you something profoundly powerful, or you decide if it is or not. Someone said to me a long time ago, this individual is suicidal. I didn't see that because I didn't want to negate. I didn't want to stamp that on that person, because you can almost provoke a certain frequency. Like some people might say to me, well, don't spend time with this person. He's very negative. And I'm like, really? I don't find that person very negative. So it's like, you kind of like, because people have certain experiences, they kind of almost impose that onto you, thinking it's the gospel or something. And I'm like, and I respect their, you know, I try to stay neutral. You know, that's the best place to be, not to take sides, not to buy too much into the drama, because the world is full of drama, as we all know. So how do you neutralize? How do you dispel the whole, so much happening around us? How do you see beyond all this?
What are the ways? I mean, I was just talking about you saw the anger and the pain and the betrayal in his eyes.
Yeah,
you recognize that. So
yes.
you recognize that in the other. Now,
yes.
You know that that's his perspective. There has been no betrayal. It's him thinking there was, because of his conscious blockages,
yes.
or filters. As we talked earlier, I don't like to use blockages, but filters. He's had, in his experience to date, he has not had the courage to go past that into acceptance, but he will. Now, if you know that he will, then you can release what you see in front of you and recognize the future, or recognize what will be as opposed to what you see. And then you can speak to and love and hold yourself outside of that frequency of energy that one may be producing. And you emanate love back, or acceptance, with grace. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how you act. It doesn't matter how you be, because I know that you are more. You don't. And that's okay. Now, if you can't release all of that, if you can't come past that with us, if you can't see, I will gift you and nudge you and guide you and show you and act much more for you to see. But if you can't, that's okay. I will see you later. I love you. And that's that release. Now, we feel tied or attached to others as if there's something we owe another soul. There is no debt. There is no demand. There is no I must because they did. These ideas are not reciprocative energies. What they are is a conditioning that says these things inside the psychophysical, or the man in the mirror. In the truth of it, the metaphysical, everything is equal and everything is infinite and everything is eternal. There's nothing owed. No, it's a laughable concept. But in the psychophysical, it's very real. So what is real here is never real there. Which one do you sit in? And this is where the truth comes in. This is what you can embodiment, if you will, this integration of not thinking. This is integration of gnosis. It's almost like a revealing to you of your true self. But it takes courage, brother, as you know. It takes courage to walk that walk. It takes courage to maintain your stoicism, that this is my truth. My story may not be your story, and your story may have a perspective in it that's still tainted from a negative expression you still remember from when you were younger. Mine doesn't. It doesn't negate your story. It's just, it doesn't negate mine either. So you want me to believe yours, but you won't believe mine. Where's the center ground? It's okay, though. I see. I love you. Goodbye. These things are released.
It is, and it's like it diffuses as well when you are in that presence whereby you balance both sides of everything, and you're leaving a very good impression for people. But what is impression for? Because again, it's people you think you're leaving a good impression, or you know you're leaving a good impression. But if people are the way they're observing it, they may get triggered by that, and sometimes people do get triggered.
We were talking about this yesterday, and I'd just like to say this to anybody who may watch this: you can never, ever cause anger in another. So this is one of the things that I want to just break through some of this distortion. When another gets angry and blames you, it's never, ever you. When you're holding yourself to a certain, when you realize what it is you are and what anger energies are and frequencies are, they can only ever be developed by the individual and are allocating and allowed by the one. Another cannot cause you anger. You can allow anger within yourself. That's it. And then that anger is projected at the other with blame. That's a defense mechanism for your inability to deal with your own emotions. And you must always stand your ground. When somebody's blaming you for being, you did this and you did that and made me angry, you will stand your ground and say, no, I did not. And you must hold your truth. You know, these things are very important to the integrity of yourself. If you pander, if you drop, if you go into this, oh, I'm sorry. You do not know who you are. You haven't embodied this, your heart. You do not need to apologize for something you haven't done. Of course, unless you're being vindictive and all of these things, but this is a different level. What we're talking to here is a purer level. So once you start to realize that in these situations, these things happen, then if you keep saying it's me, then it will keep happening to you. And believe me, nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you and is directed by you. So anybody with these things, it happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me. No, it didn't. It was chosen by your soul for you to experience that. And this is that victimhood. And this is that stage of this mentality where nothing will go. Yes, because it's what you're pulling in. You're magnetizing to you all of this lack and recreating it. Change comes from taking different choices. If you keep saying sorry for something you haven't done, you will keep saying sorry for it until you stand your ground and say no more. And this is where this tolerance and this unconditional love thing is so, it takes people too far into this idea that everything must be accepted and tolerated. Blame should not be tolerated. Why would you allow blame? You know, these things. It's no. And why would you talk? Once you go above it, you realize the other isn't blaming you. They are pointing fingers to try to offset their own anguish, because they are not responsible or accountable for their own emotional state. Why would you take any responsibility for another's emotional state? So these things, again, I'm just speaking to this a little bit bluntly, brother, but it's just a prevalent topic that comes up. And I see fingers pointing all over the place where others are blaming others for how they feel. It's the individual soul's choice how to feel, not how somebody else makes you feel. They can't make you feel anything. It's you that feels. So this accountability, and I want to separate the word accountability, responsibility. These are practices. These aren't external material things. These are internal practices where one recognizes they are responsible. They have the ability to respond, not react. They have the ability to be accountable, not blame. These are the different ways of, again, we can see these things happening all of the time, and we can release this, balance it, step above it, observe these interactions from what would be basically a child state mentality of, I didn't get my sweets. Again, brother, a little bit.
No, I appreciate this. This is really incredible conversation. And
one of the things I realized, Barrett, before we continue, I just want to add this too. One of the things I realized, and I was given, I spoke to this a little bit yesterday, was when the anger, emotional anger, based on the negative aspects of the past or the perspectives that we bring with us, all that was bad. That was a terrible, I don't want to do that again. And these experiences that have happened that are still in the overlays. When these overlays come in, these perspectives, these satanic thinking, the defense mechanisms, what I term the weak, masculine, controlling, spiteful mind that just wants to attack and it's your fault. When all this kicks in, it takes you back. The body, the mentality, the consciousness goes back to the age you were when that initial the initial invention inside of you happened. It may be 6 years old, it may be 10, it may be 13, and you will act out as that child. So it could be a screaming tantrum, it could be slamming doors, it could be all sorts of different things. And we've all experienced these things as when we were younger, and yet we do them again when we're older, but in an adult body, and then blame the other for it. This is accountability. This is inner work. The way to release this is to forgive all of that, to reflect on all of that. And when this comes up, tag the other. Don't blame them, because they're showing you that there is a place of emptiness, darkness within you that needs some love. None of this ego death. I want to kill my ego. It's ridiculous. You must give it a cuddle. All of those dark sides, the toxic nature to the internalized pain. Cuddle it.
Because you're harmonizing it, aren't you? Really, you're harmonizing it. Yeah.
And
what happens? Not putting it away, like most people try to bury it,
See, this is another thing. When we look at a negative, how do you make a negative positive? Now, in the spiritual community, it's all of these different thinkings. But I want to talk about it in pure mathematics. -2 + what makes a positive? It makes another negative. You need to add 2 negatives together for some reason to make a positive. You can't just put a positive on a negative. It doesn't work. So this idea is bypassing. So really, the way I look at it is, if there's an emptiness inside or a darkness inside that is released through a trigger or an activation, you go into it. You go into, and inside there is the shame. Inside there is the fear. Inside there is the guilt. You say it's okay. You give it a cuddle. You give it that. But in that drop into it, there's your second negative. So it's a negative aspect within you. And then when you, rather than blaming it on somebody else, you go, oh, it might have been me. And that's the drop. Now you've got 2 negatives. Now you're harmonizing it. And then it comes up to neutrality. And it doesn't impact again. But if you just keep bypassing it, it will keep telling you stories and blaming everybody else.
And it repeats, doesn't it? It just repeats.
Oh, constantly.
Hamster wheel. It just goes round in circles.
Not only does it repeat, but it gets harder and faster.
Yeah.
Dependent on your soul contract. And right now, that amplification process is huge. So those that feel they may bypass things and I can just do this and I can do that and I can blame the other, they will get harder and harder and harder until they get the message. And this is physics. And I don't want to laugh, but it's physics. And this is why I'm so jubilant in this glorious time for these human souls, brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to you certainly amplified it. Although I was getting there, you kind of pushed me a bit in the most positive way. Reference to history, because history is not what we thought it was, because we've been led to believe in something that wasn't real, So it's like, how do you unlearn? Because it's left certain markers, and some people are very attached to it,
Yeah, because that's their belief system again. And I'd like to just give
like scarcity. That's a huge one, isn't it? Scarcity. We live in who decided there should be scarcity? I mean, where I live, I would, it's all nature. There's so much food around. I don't know where this. All right, they're trying to cut trees down or whatever, but really, there shouldn't be scarcity. It's abundance.
When you read it again in the metaphysics, once you see what's actually powering all of this, and what creation to a certain degree, some mechanisms of creation anyway, the energetics of creation, there is no scarcity. There is infinite. This is all another lack system, another belief system. Now, if you've got an infinite creation, people can look at themselves, okay, and what they believe. How much of their belief is based on limitation, and how much is based on infinite resources and plentiful abundance? When you look at your belief, if it's based on limitation and limited thinking, it's nefarious. It's an indoctrination. It is not true. It devalues and makes worthless everything that's around you. When you look at the unlimited, it's natural. Naturally, everything is unlimited. You know, there is nothing that can. It doesn't matter. We can look at. I talked about the energies behind this, so I'll add to this later. But limited and scarcity creates fearful thinking. Now, fear is not divine. Fear is an absence of love. Fear is an absence of the courage to step out of the social order structure. The unnatural that has been running the show is not natural. So anything that is illogical is anti-Christos or anti-logos, anti-logic. Anti-logos, anti-Christos. Some may have heard of the Antichrist. Well, Antichrist is anti-logic. And I will tell you openly that the fearful thoughts and the belief systems and the perspectives that are overlaid on everything as being against you is anti-Christos, anti-logos. And it doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. All of that fear and all of that anger is from within, not from without. You can blame the without all you want, but you're the one that's angry. You're the one that's fearful. Why? Oh, because of, no, that's a blame. So who's bringing up the anti-logic? Who's sending those thoughts into you if it's not you? Whose responsibility is it to quell them, to calm them and show them love and tell them they have no place? I am so much more than this. But again, this is all different souls' journeys. And all we're doing here is cutting through to start off with, some of this thinking that everything else is to blame when everything is you. One way of looking at it, Barrett, is there's 6 billion human souls on this planet, and every single one of them is a reflection of you, an internalized fractal of you, and they're all having a different experience for you.
That is a very powerful way of looking at it, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And like I treat people the way I treat myself. It's on reflection. So if I'm a bit nasty to someone, there's aspects of me within which is causing that. So I'm observing that, and I do apologize sometimes if I step out of alignment. I've occasionally been a bit fallible, but I was very quick to catch it. You know, but I catch it, and I'm man enough to say sorry, and I move on. You know,
let me give you something on that too, brother. Experientially, this is what I call. I've created a picture of how this works for me, and it allows me to give a perspective to others. That, you know, take it or leave it. Again, I am not. I speak my truth. How you receive it is not my concern, and it used to be. It isn't anymore. So, in this manner, in overwriting those old programs and overlays, perspectives, we can, never ever have to apologize for yourself going and dropping. You don't have to do that. You've recognized it. In that reflection of recognizing it, you've already harmonized that section. Now you can say, right, I'll catch that quicker next time. Maybe I can see that before it happens. And believe me, this starts to, you get quicker and quicker and quicker. And then you catch the thought before the action. So you feel the emotion, you feel something happen. It bubbles up, normally from the middle, and it's quick reaction. But then you catch the thought before it happens. And then you haven't had that action, right? And I will tell you as well that the thoughts then stop. I call it auto-tune.
Yeah. Can I give you a little intimate example because I didn't want to advocate to institutionalize my love, and I respect anyone who has. So anyone listening out there, they've done this. I love you just as much, but I didn't want to do this, and it's called marriage. So to be very, very transparent as always, I didn't really see a good mentor, to be honest. I didn't see very good examples of people who were really happy in their relationship. But that wasn't enough for me to say, okay, I wasn't inspired or motivated. It just didn't feel right for me from day one, that I need someone to say that that piece of paper is what's going to keep you two together. That never felt right for me from the beginning, and I still carry it to today.
I'm going to drop a cat amongst the pigeons and say marriage is a corporate merger.
Well, I agree. I mean, I totally agree with that. But the thing is, you can't dismantle an old system. It's better to leave the system and for you to move on. And that's exactly what I've done. And it's not that I've started a new religion or a new cult or a new nothing. I don't call it anything, really. In fact, if you insist on me calling it something, I just call it unconditional love. Why do I need condition? Because it's a trade-off at the end of the day. You scratch my back and ask, what? Why? I might scratch your back 10 times and you scratch my one time, just as happy. I'm not keeping an account, a ledger, you know. So
this is the thing. This is one of the interesting things, but you've touched on there, Barrett. Thank you so much. Is the feeling that of another, if they do something for somebody, then there must be something in return. It's giving to receive, and that's not a good look. It's very much service to self, and it's manipulative, and it can cause extreme anger and extreme blame, and it's all from the individual. So it's beautiful, my friend, in what you've just said. If you can't give without condition, then please stop giving until you have the ability to give without condition.
Can I give can I give you an example? I was in a health food shop about a year and a half ago, and I saw a man in distress, like he had pain, like you would. I could feel his pain and anguish, and I said, "I can help you." And he said, "Help me." I said, "I know, I can sense that you're not feel." He said, "Yeah." So I just, I did the pressure point areas, and he felt great. And I said, "Look, this is the technique I used." So I explained to him, and he said, "The pain is gone. I'm so incredible." I mean, then cut the long story short, I said, "Look, if you want to, you can come to my farm." And he got very frightened. He got frightened of the fact that I'm trying to sell him something. He thought that, okay, I might buy it because you're bloody, pardon the French, you're good, but you might be expensive, was his next. You see, he wasn't telling me these things, but I could sense all these things. And when I assured him that he doesn't have to pay anything, he ran for his life. It was almost like, it was an interesting experience. It was important for me to experience that, because I didn't take it personally. It's just that he's had some experiences where the complexes are still playing in his head, and that's half the drama of his issues, the emotion. So there are some beings that they will find a way of releasing, and filters like you using. I was going to use blockages, but filters, so that they can cleanse all this and move on, really. But interesting times though, Lee, because I certainly sense the energies are definitely because I've also connected to Rick as well, and I must say, when I'm in the company of yourself and Rick particularly, I've got a few others, but you've set a certain precedent where I'm certainly upping my game, and people know.
Let's talk about what's ongoing, brother.
Yes.
I mean, we can talk to the what's this and that and the other, but let's get rid of some beliefs. Or let's talk to some other narratives that everybody is, this thing about his story, and the victors writing the historical narratives, but all inverted. So if you took history and you turned it upside down on its head, what would it look like? The same thing with, let's just go to what we've just experienced. I wrote a post yesterday about what we've just experienced. Had it been divinely allowed, had this genocidal attempt on the human souls of this plane been allowed divinely to be undertaken, in the narratives that we've produced or have been produced, in the narratives that have been produced for the human collective, in 10, 20 years' time, the medical institutions at this point would be heroes for saving a small percentage of an extinction event in the human experience. Where viruses do not exist and never have, there is no external germ that can impact you. And these ideas, but where this has been taken out of history, where everybody believes now that there's invisible bugs everywhere and that they are fallible and frail and that they can catch things off another, where everybody has that belief indoctrinated through the medical systems and the scientific systems, backed up by peer-reviewed papers of the same cronies that are suckling at the teats of the monetary system, where all this is prevalent in the belief systems of humanity. If that system had been allowed to genocide 99% of humanity, I can tell you that the propaganda arm of that system, or mainstream media, would then be hailing that medical system which actually carried out the genocide as the saviors of humanity. And in 50 years or 100 years, that would be in the historical record as truth. Now, we can go back to Spanish flu in 1918, and that was what? Something to do with jabadoos. Again, they'd say it was a bug. Okay, well, where's this bug idea come from? When you got Louis Pasteur saying there's germs everywhere, and Beauchamp saying, no, there isn't. They're internal. This is an internal cleanse. Why are we told the body is organic? Why aren't we told about the electrical system within the body? Why aren't we told about light and sound communications, where the body receives light and sound? Why aren't we taught that the body's basis is light? Why aren't we taught that molecules are built from light? Why are we taught atoms are there? Why are we taught that all of these things? Why are we taught that atoms are particles and denying the substrate that they exist in? Humanity is walking around like fish who have been taught there is no water, and they have no idea why they're floating or what they're floating in. But science tries to tell them it's shitloads of little particles bouncing off each other, and that's all you are. And all of these ideas are ludicrous and completely inverted to devalue, to make worthless those souls that are here by indoctrinating them into ignorance, to ensure they just have enough to get up in the morning and do a good day's work to maintain the system that they enjoy. And these ones that are enjoying that system that everybody props up, they've got no care. In fact, completely the other way around. They carry no source spark. They are not sparks of creation. All of the souls on this plane are sparks of creation directly connected to creation. They are creators. They are infinite. They create this reality. And what they've been doing is creating it for those that can't create, those that are dark on the inside, those that have no light, those that have no compassion and no empathy. They're the ones, they're the tricksters, they're the deceivers that make you think everything's negative and everything's against you and fearful thoughts. If you choose to put love into that and light into that and think, no, that's not true, they don't exist. And this experience rises. And this is where, what everybody's experiencing right now, all of the human collective and all the beautiful souls are experiencing a unification event, an ascension event, yes, in frequency and into a brand new experience. But they're also balancing and harmonizing all of these distorted lower energies out of this collective experience, out of this morphogenetic field that humanity experiences collectively. And this purity is deeply instilled. Thank you. Thank you for what you thought you were doing, because what you've actually done divinely is made a very solid, strong, never to be deceived again, pure human experience, ready for the new souls to experience something completely different through this process. So there's a little bit there, brother. Historically, we can look at the Second World War. Who started all of these things? Banksters, money. They don't care about money. Nobody out there with the money creators don't care about money. They care about control. They use money as the tool of control. But all their mechanisms of control are in scarcity, lack, and fear. Negative propaganda, negativity within each, suppression, oppression, and indoctrination. That's what everybody in that human experience has experienced. Haven't you had enough yet? They're not going to change. You are. And there's the beauty of this. Nobody's saving humanity. Humanity is saving themselves divinely, and it's assured. And what we're doing is witnessing this and observing it. It's our choice whether we're playing it, or whether we lower ourselves into it and feel it, or we don't. We can observe it, just like sitting in a theatre, watching a movie or watching actors on the stage. Your choice is whether you are the actor or the observer watching you. When you're the actor, you have a script. You are a straw man. You are under control of the game, of the theme, of that script writer. When you are the observer, any outcome is possible. There is no script. You choose your script, not the script writer. And this is where we are with this. And this is that observer versus the player, the actor. There's many out there that are acting. And a lot of those that are out there that are acting have no soul. Many won't like that, but that's very, very true.
Schumann resonance. Now, the thing is with the frequency of the planet, things are
Schumann.
The frequency. I mean, again, I don't know much about the guy, but I know that he did research, and there's the Om resonance of the planet. This is basically the heartbeat of the planet, I guess. Things are kind of getting a bit faster and faster. My understanding is, and I could be a bit off, you have to be of a certain frequency, and you have to sustain a certain frequency. And that's based on truth, purity, kindness, compassion, empathy. So if you don't hold that which is true, then you could just drop yourself. You just, because we're going to that level of consciousness now where you have to.
Well, let's take some of these fears.
Story again. I don't know.
It's near enough, brother. Let's take some of these fears out of it and simplify, because there's a lot of this stuff we can't say is factual, but we can say it is, because otherwise, I don't like to define. I just like to speak to. So yes, what you're talking to is a frequency that's rising on this planet. So the frequency of Gaia in this galaxy actually is all rising into a higher frequency. Now, if you think about it as a concentration as opposed to a dilution, if you think about it as a tuning of a guitar string, when that guitar string is distorted, it plays in a note that you don't. It's not harmonic. So you tune it. Now, anything, and I'm going to say anything that has not got a connection to source cannot tune. They do not hold love. They do not hold a purity. They have no ability to tune. So as this frequency rises and the tuning is balanced and harmonized, anything that is not in tune, anything that's distorted will be released. Just be left behind as this rises. That doesn't mean to say it's gone anywhere. It means to say it's left this and it's having another experience there. Go. If it's a soul, if there's a soul inside, then that soul is infinite. If there is no soul, then it doesn't belong here. It's very, very easy to let go of a lot of harder questions by just looking at a tuning fork, a rise in pitch. And if that pitch is not maintained, is distorted or out of tune, then it no longer belongs. Evil does not belong. All of these angry, fear, blame, shame, guilt, they are not existent in a pure frequency. People keep thinking, well, what about this and what about that? What about all the greedy ones, all the murderers? They don't exist because those thoughts don't exist. That frequency doesn't exist. But we project into something because we can't conceive of that. Then it can't possibly be. But let me give you this, brother, that possibility lies in what we cannot conceive, the inconceivable. By definition, what we can conceive is limited, and infinity isn't limited. So we must always allow for the inconceivable to be a possibility and never deny it. Otherwise, we're limiting creation, and we are creation. These concepts are so ingrained, where fear is thrown into the future. Well, what if we are in unprecedented times? This has never happened before, as far as I am aware, and it may have done, but I'm going to say it hasn't. Whatever. It makes no. I don't mind being incorrect anymore. I'm never wrong. In the moment, I just refine it the next day, and it doesn't matter because it's not said with any malice or manipulation. So we are going through something that is brand new, you know, for it to take a body and a planet and a galaxy through a third, fourth, fifth dimensional shift. But I'd also like to cut down on this idea of bifurcations and splits and this and all of this timelines and all of these ideas. We live in a dimensional frequency. We live in a band. Oh, sorry. We let me get that wording right. This existence is a dimensional frequency. It's no different to a dial on your radio. You turn the dial, you're in a different radio station. What shifted? What changed? What caused all of these catastrophic events? All of these ideas that are purported out of there about this timeline shifts and timeline splits. Well, yeah. As this rises, what isn't in harmony with it doesn't. That's all. So there's your bifurcation. It's just left having an experience in a different bandwidth. It doesn't negate it. It's continuing, and it will harmonize, and everything's connected at the top. We are simply going through dimensions, which would be like frequency bands, and rising to a purer one where those that were fallen angels or dark ones or evil or all of these ideas do not exist. They are banished below, quarantined underneath. We were in the third dimensional aspect, this distorted reality before 2012. In 2012, we were shifted into a fourth dimensional transitional space. Humanity was shifted, and what wasn't shifted was left behind, and that third dimension is gone. We are now in a fourth dimensional transit into a fifth dimensional place of experience for new humanity, or the new experience of the fifth dimensional aspect of this experience. This is what's ongoing. Now, as that shift is happening, all of these distortions, all of this strengthening and unity of humanity coming together as one is the inevitable event of the dark ones having zero control anymore, because any leadership and any power they had in 2012 and before was cut and banished and extinguished. There's some remnants left that are running around scared, helping humanity unite. And we speak to them as if they have power, as if the elites have power and authority over humanity. They have no such thing. That's a belief system. The authority is within. You are all born sovereign. Sovereign means above authority. The only authority that is above you is your inner authority. Sorry, the only authority you need to listen to is your inner authority. Stop bowing down to these claims. Unite. Take back what is rightfully yours. And this whole experience lifts into an abundance and equal world where everything is abundant for all. There is no poverty, lack. Nobody is scarce of anything. You do what you love, not what you have to do, because there is no have to. We can release these ideas and notions. You must work physically for your money. Why? What about the people that don't? Where's this equal when you're born? What, you must work and you must not? You can have more than him. No. Let's get rid of these ideas of inequality and through the debt fictions that this has been created. Let's get rid of these concepts that that's normal, that there's a cost to living. Where did you learn that? Again, television, governments, authorities above you, monarchies, because you're all warmongering pigs. Can't be trusted to look after yourselves. Stand up. You know in your hearts that you can. You know in your hearts you have the moral compass. You know in the hearts of what to do and what is right or wrong, regardless. Don't let these Muppets tell you. Again, excuse the rant.
Yeah, it's beautiful, bro. Beautiful. Aging.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, one should have control over that as well, because once you release yourself and you get rid of all the anger, the aggression, the blame, the shame, the guilt, and you anchor yourself in the present and in the now, should one need to age? Do you feel that?
Not physically, not the vessel. The vessel will go to whatever age you wish it to go to. It is designed for millennia, and the soul chooses the vessel, as in the organic, and then chooses to leave. This idea.
Yeah, because you just like, so all this business of I hate to use the word satanic, but the rituals that they do, with they put you in a coffin and they lower you and they embalm you. They do all. I don't think these sort of things should happen, really. Should it really?
All of this will change. This grief process, this mourning the loss of somebody. Again,
celebrate. Yeah, should be.
Yeah, where people are again. We've all been through this. It's not a case of some have and some haven't, whereby we've been taught one thing and then find out it wasn't true and had to release that. Well, it's the same thing with what you are. Now, I know we had a chat about who you are versus what you are. I'm not going to go into that semantic, but you are an eternal divine being that's experiencing this reality through this vessel. You are not of this reality, of this experience. You are much more than that. And so is every other soul here. You are infinitely connected. You have not lost anything. It's the belief that you can lose something. It's these ideas, I won't be able to see them again. Well, that's because that's what the indoctrination has taught you, that you are worthless, that you aren't infinite, you aren't the creator. You must have authority over you, looking after you and telling you what to do, nanny states and all of these ideas. This is the inversion of the purity of the power of each soul. This is why they were scared. They had to maintain the idea and the ignorance that the soul is nothing, and that you're just the human flesh. You are so much more, and so is everything else. So this grief process, where's grief come from? A feeling of loss. Well, when you know that you can never lose anything, what would the process be then? When you know that soul has never gone, they've transmigrated to wherever their soul choice will be, where their next experience will be undertaken. Nothing is lost. What would that funeral service look like then? This is what the human collective will undertake, is this. What does it look like if? And that way every system will be turned to pure benevolence, because if each soul is equal, and they are, what do these systems do that create inequality? You take over these systems because they're yours. This is what GPMS World speaks to. GPMS simply states that every soul on this planet is a shareholder and guardian with a moral and righteous obligation to be benevolent on this planet. Yet the controllers and narrative holders haven't kind of given you that notion. So what GPMS stipulates is that you are the owners, correct, shareholders, even in their systems of legality, which is no more than dead corporate fictions, through the monetary debts that they've imposed upon you when there is only ever credit. They took your credit, they took your inalienable rights, and the morbidly compliant are still complying. We all were until we realized and then chose not to. They made those that chose not to conspiracy theories. They cut them off from the system. Oh, that's gravy, as the others thought they were morally self-righteous in their path of compliance. And that's all good, no blame, just pointing this out so all can see. Those that prop up the system of belief, those that prop up the system that's inherently unnatural, Barrett doesn't like the word satanic, but I will use it, are in fear of freedom and equality for all. GPMS says unite, and all of that you choose to take back.
I was going to say, thank you for that. I was going to say the true currency for GPMS.world would not be gold or diamonds. I would say it'll be something like energy, I guess, won't it? The true currency.
We're moving through.
What is gold? I mean, I through my intuition, there's so much gold everywhere, but they say there's not so much to go around. Which,
limitations.
I know you can create gold. I know people who can with an alchemist. But the thing is, they've used a so-called precious metal to fool us to think that that should be a reserve currency or whatever. No, I genuinely believe that it has always been and will be an energy.
See, I'm going to take it back and say they haven't used the metal. What they've done is they've used the emotional indoctrination, the ignorance, and they've said that the value is in the external world, in the material world, and the value is not within. So they could use gold, they could use copper, they could use leaves and tell you the value. And this is what, the value is in that. And everybody believed it. They still do.
In a casual conversation you had with somebody, I can't remember where it was, you said something profoundly powerful, which resonates with me. We don't actually need money.
No.
I like the idea, I do like the idea of a digital currency in the sense that you can have a card.
No, when I said that, I said we don't need money. Not a digital currency. This wasn't cash.
Not they think. Exactly. But you could have a card, which, you can have.
Humanity will choose how they would like, whatever method of exchange they will choose. GPMS doesn't designate. Right. GPMS is not taking anything from anybody. It's saying, listen, it's all yours. You are the value. Intrinsically, each one of you is infinite. You have infinite value. Unite them all together, and there's the value for the planet, and we never need to suffer. But it's not choice, you see, because we're not saying, GPMS isn't saying there is a specified or defined way of doing this. They're asking the human collective, what would you like?
Well, I tell you, if I'm a representative of that, if you harmonize and rid the toxicity, we are already in abundance. And brings me to the next question.
No, I want to go back. You're absolutely true about the energy. You see, the energetic exchange is the key. Now, again, it's what exchange you expect. Do you need an exchange? Can you gift? And this is the difference. This is all about energy. Now, what if you're gifting energetically, but who to? If you see yourself as giving something that you own to another and you want it back or you want payment for it, then you're negating the energetic. You're negating the benefit to the all. Once you realize that, once you have the ability and once you have the abundance to gift your energy or your time or your skill or your profession or whatever, your genius without return, because it's a pleasure to do so, there's the joy.
I've been practicing this for quite a while now, and when I go out, I don't go out looking to be kind. I'm just being myself, my natural state of being. So the way the kindness thing works is, if I see somebody who's in need of, and they don't have access, rather than giving money, you can actually go and physically do something for them. And that is very powerful.
The beauty of this is that it doesn't. This exchange of money, we think it has value. It doesn't. It just aids in the survival mechanism.
Yeah.
Has value? I mean, the gift of it, the intention to aid, is already there. We just see it as we gave them some money. No. You had a pure intention to try to assist, and there's your energetic exchange. The money is just what you handed over. So again, in these ideas, what you're doing is you're walking around and you're holding yourself in a light that most out there aren't. Yet they want to. Everybody wants to. Everybody would love to be loving all the time to everybody and generous for these things. That's what the human soul and the heart wants to do.
Yeah.
The darker aspects don't, and that's what they've suppressed. But that doesn't stop people like yourself, Barrett, going, and I love all that are gifting and sharing their pure intention as opposed to their manipulative intention, because this is what changes the experience, changes the world. And this is what is occurring.
Synchronicity is very powerful, isn't it? When collective, like two or more, and that they're synchronized, and it changes the collective consciousness of the people. It's like you sent a very powerful vortex of energy, and it's based on, because we spoke quite casually earlier about and you know, and then you just visual. The fact that you have the audacity to visualize it, it's happened already, and I get that. And on smaller scale things,
courage.
It's happened.
Courage.
Yeah, because like, you know, many years ago, my dream was to get out of the rat race mentality, because the saying goes, if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. So you're in the box. How do you get out of that box mentality? Because a lot of people don't want you to, almost, you know. Or when I did, it was like I mean, I came to a village where there's hardly any people really, and it's not, and some friends who came to see me, they weren't interested because they thought there's nothing here. And I think, what? Well, I think I was lost for words, you know.
It's a really interesting thing to actually sit and release wants and desires and needs, and to realize you are so much more, and that this material world is inverted and was satanic. There is so much more to receive, but why are you looking for it in an inverted environment where it's designed to strumph you down? The air is poisonous, the water is poisonous, the food is poisonous, the news is poisonous, the information, the discourse is poisonous. This is all poisonous to your purity and your natural aura, your own field. Each time you step into that environment and you're dealing with all of these others that are that are already disharmonic, then that's impacting your own field. Now, how many people have got the time or the priority? This is another thing, priority. People don't prioritize themselves, they prioritize their perceived needs, and that comes from fear. I must work, otherwise I won't have enough for 20 years. Well, what about the next 2 minutes? Can you not just stop and have a think? No, I'm in a rush. Okay, you know, okay, love you, you know, whatever. But I mean, I sat down, I don't know, what am I going to say? For at least 20 years, like there or thereabouts, like 12, 15 hours a day researching on my own, in my own space. Now, don't get me wrong, I was out there doing whatever I needed to do to maintain, but I didn't realize what I was doing was setting myself up for isolation. I didn't realize that when isolation came, when complete and utter isolation came, and there was no loneliness, but I felt lonely for so long. And then all of a sudden, the last few years, 20 hours, I could speak to nobody for weeks, but I never felt lonely, because what I was doing all that time was contemplating, sat in comfort, sat in peace. The anger wasn't there. I had no need. I just wanted wisdom. I didn't even know it was called wisdom at the time. I wanted answers to questions that I couldn't find answers to. Nothing made sense. And the more I looked, the more pieces I got. But the more pieces I got, the more I had to release. And the more I released, the easier it was to go in and not need the answer anymore. And just feel, you know, I let go of the outside experience. And now when I walk into it, it has no impact on me. It's just that. It's an external experience, because I'd spent so long internal, harmonizing or thinking about all of these things, because I'd spent so long angry, brother. I'd spent so long in pain, emotionally in turmoil. I'd spent so long asking people to be have integrity, have honesty, hold yourself in some honor. And they weren't showing it me, even though I was trying to show them, but I didn't know. And of course, this was all confusion. And in those few years, then you could balance it. I could go back through it all. You know, that's my role. It's my job. I enjoy that. I take great enjoyment out of that. And it's not for everybody. They don't need to, because once a few have, and we speak to it like this, it's for the collective to have. This isn't mine. This is ours. So in us speaking about this, brother, this goes into the collective. It clears through those distortions, and others don't have to do it. And I thank so many for what they are doing, so I don't have to. This is another place of, you know, you're doing this and that's wrong. No, you're doing that. Thank you so much. So I don't have to do that. You're experiencing it for me. You're clearing that energy, because we're all connected.
Definitely, brother. And coming back to the GPMS.world, it was the thing I like about myself. I'm pretty spontaneous. No need to think. because when I'm comparing the old version of myself, thinking was because there was a lot of doubt, which is okay. I'm not saying people shouldn't think, but with me, it's like, the reaction was like, this feels right. This is absolutely perfect. And for me, it wasn't about just being a shareholder. It's also about participation.
Beautiful.
How can I participate? It's like, and I'm already doing it, because the fact that I've not only have I upped my frequency, and because when there are ways of raising your vibration, isn't there? By there's certain things you can do, but I know where you're going to go with this, but it's hard not to be like, when you're rubbing shoulders with someone like this, like yourselves, Rick, and yourself. Each time I go away, it's like something has, you know what I mean? And people do notice it. So it's a bit the biofeedback that I get, and they ask questions. So what is it? And then you say, well, it's something that's not, you can't compare it to anything that's ever been.
No.
So it's hard.
And
that's the beauty of it as well for people. It's mind bending, you see, for people.
Yes, but it's like, I want more. It's not a want. It's just a wow. Okay, that's new. What happened there? When's the next time? And this is the same with the layers that we go through, or that you will go through. It depends on how you look at it. But the layers of release. Now, there's fear involved in each and every layer. It's the same mechanism. You start with fear and you end with release. No, you don't have to experience the fear. You can just choose release.
Brother, can I? So I was going to say.
Oh.
I didn't freeze up.
No, go.
with reference to the population of the world, we're going through the intuition, because I'm sure you haven't done a physical head count as such. So you trust the figures that wherever you authentified as it being truth, because you threw a figure earlier.
6 billion.
Why not 4? Why not 10? I mean, how do we know? Why not? It could be a lot less. It could be a lot more. But where I'm going with this, what percentage of that is like soulless? I mean.
Okay. So let me just. I mean, brother Rick, and I collaborate quite a bit on many different things, Barrett, and I'm sure that
another session for that.
Got a real strong zzz in my right ear. I'm sure that we will discuss more of the energetics in a different time. But in collaboration with Rick, and all I'm going to say is he's directly connected, or he has with more. That's what I'm going to leave it at that. Okay. Now, I have my experience. I trust everybody until they show me reasons not to. And I've never found a reason, and I'm not even looking for reasons not to trust Rick. I trust him implicitly. If Rick says that there is 6 billion souls, or 5.96 billion souls that are being ascended into the fifth dimensional reality, then that's what it is, and I will sit with that. There's 8 billion apparently on the planet, and that means there's 2 billion to be released. Well, of those, they are not souls, and 1.2 billion of them have already gone. Now, most people don't, or 800,000. There's 1.2 billion left. Well, no, I think it's 1.2 have gone. Either way, there's been a lot of shedding that impacts not so many, because these were soulless. These weren't souls, and they have gone. They have released or left. Now, there are a few of those that were souls that went through the death process of this transmigration. They transmigrated through the death process of this ascension to enable and help others to see certain things. Again, there's so much more divinely into each experience and each soul's choice. So there are some, but not that many, and there are the vast majority of them are minions, soulless constructs. This is what I have been given, and I do not disagree, brother. So as many as people out there say that it's 5,000 to 1 constructs to 1 soul, I'm not so sure, and I give the benefit. If I don't know, I will give you the benefit of the doubt that you have a soul. If you show me that you haven't, near enough. But until you do, then you're soul, and I will give you my love, and I will gift you that, because I don't know. Now, I don't make decisions, and I don't judge others until they show me themselves. There's dark entities, there's dark areas within ones that have souls, and they can look demonic and they can act demonic, and there's others that have no spark at all, and all they do is they take the light and turn it into darkness. Or they take the light they try to manipulate the other into a fear state, and then their light is resonant with their own fear states and their own energetics, and they can feed off that, and they enjoy that too. These things can be experienced, but they can only be experienced to realize, and then many will deny that, and that's okay. Denial, what's seen cannot be unseen. You can only deny. And you tend to deny through fear of having the courage to see more or to accept.
How are we doing for time? I was going to say, how do you? Are we doing okay? Yeah, time-wise.
Good.
There's no rules. We could just go with the flow.
A couple of hours if you want. I'm good.
Couple of more hours.
I don't know. A couple of hours. No, we've got to make it available to watch.
Yeah. No. Can we just talk a little bit about how you sit with these? I spoke to Rick about it, and he gave me a perfect answer. I just wanted to feel your vibration with the so-called hidden technologies, because that's going to make people empowered as well. I mean, imagine you wake up in the morning and you're off grid, basically. You're generating your own electricity, so you'd never have another bill again. That's going to empower you, and you won't feel you need to work anyway. Imagine you don't have to pay for electricity bills, which is getting quite astronomical, to say the least. But
I'm going to say something. I'm going to drop another cat amongst the pigeons and say electricity has never ever been generated. Not one single spark of electricity on this planet has ever been generated. It's been manifested. Electricity, you don't generate electricity. Electricity is part and parcel of this universe. It's a hybrid of this universe. It's infinite in this universe, or in the ether, in the substrate of creation. Is electricity. And guess what the inverted system makes us think is we've got to pay for it.
Yeah, nuclear power station.
They make you pay for everything, the cost of living. These ideas. So no. I mean, free energy is being, talk to it as free energy. But anybody wants to look up Nikola Tesla's work, they will see an awful lot more in there. And his greatest invention, Tesla's greatest invention, was not the dynamo, was not this, that, and the other. It was the magnetic field. See, we speak to fields as if we've got an idea, and Tesla actually went in and started to work out what that field is, and the dielectric side of it, the two sides, the substrate, the ether. This is where space comes in. So electricity, there will be no cost for any essential good or essential service, because humanity are the benefactors, are the keepers, are the guardians of all of these things, and that is theirs to utilize through their lives, through their experiences here. It's not to be charged for, it's free. Nature gifts freely because we are nature. Why would we charge ourselves for what we experience? This is craziness. But again, with these ideas, so conceptually, even though actually, I look at the ideas that are around right now as to what can be that are being gifted to humanity with regards to moving magnetic machinery that creates electricity. And these ideas, these are so old hat, and these have been so well bypassed by solid state arch form geometries that don't need any spinning parts and can produce, the size of a telephone. The size of this would power your house and I wouldn't call it anti-grav, but electromagnetic propulsion, or even interspatial plasma propulsion devices. They work on energy, and they take away. This is an electromagnetic universe. Everything here in this universe, I'm not saying others because physics changes, but in this universe, it's electromagnetic. Gravity doesn't exist. It is a thesis. Its explanation is completely wrong. It is static Kling. It is nothing more. When you can see magnetism and see how it works, then every molecule has a field, but nobody knows what fields are. We can speak to a field as if we've got a clue, but a field has two sides. A field is not in the physical, not just in reality. A field also exists in the substrate to reality, or the non-reality, or as the ancient or the old ones called it, ether. There's the energy that creates reality or powers reality. What the energy that creates it is another interesting topic, because that's where we sit. But the energy of creation is infinite, and it's the ether, and the ether is light and sound, if you want to call it. That's what Tesla said. Light in the sorry, it's not even light, but illumination that we see as light in reality is nothing more than sound in the ether. The mechanism of creation of a molecule is a hyperboloid and a torus. There's two parts to these things. They come to one. Of course, the fish swimming in the sea don't know there's water. Then humanity has no idea that there's ether. So there can only be one. And this is where particle science and these bumping physicists and quantum, another word that I do not, quantum, to quantify. How do you quantify the infinite? Mathematics wants to count. Mathematics wants to quantify. Mathematics wants to befuddle. Arithmetics. Remember those words? Arithmetics is gone now to mathematics. Arithmetics doesn't need to quantify. Arithmetics works on quality, not quantity. We've all been taught it's all about quantity, not quality. Let's talk to water. If you change the molecular spin rate of a water from a negative connotation to a positive connotation, the actual field, not the water molecule, it's the field. Again, we're not shown this. You can buy water that's got a certain amount of parts per million and they say it's pure. No, it's not. It's quantitatively pure. It's not qualitatively pure. The quality is in the energy of the water. We are not taught to look at energy as quality. We're taught to look at quantity. When you are dense, you have a dense day. When you're down, you feel heavy. The next day, you feel light. No quantity changed within you. Your physical structure didn't change, but your quality did. We're not taught to value quality quite like this. We're not taught to see it, but this is within the field that we exist in. And what's happening with this frequency rise is the quality of that experience is rising. The quantity doesn't matter. The quality does. So again, all of these things are inverted, and there's different ways of looking at a lot, but fields. If anybody's interested, have a look at Ken Wheeler, Theorio-Apophysis on YouTube. Thousands of videos on magnetic fields. Thousands showing it, and it's not easy. It's difficult to get your head around. It takes a little bit of cogitation. Ken tries to make it as easy as he can, but Ken's brilliant. Ken's a genius. And Ken doesn't pander to those that ask silly questions based on the old fear narratives. So, many may find him a little bit egotistical, but Ken's brilliant in bringing up the metaphysics, the ancient teachings, the ancient new. He's bringing them back in for it to be extrapolated on and added to, not laughed at and dismissed like that mockery and scorn of the conspiracy spirit. You're thinking funny. You're crazy. You're an idiot. Yeah, that's a great look. Great look. Mocking and scorn those that are thinking differently to your system. Come on, as we start to move forward, guys, this is where that unity and realization is that there may be more. And once you start to get a taste of that, it lifts.
And how real will interstellar travel take place? I mean, what do
you mean? How will? You assume it's not.
Well, I feel it is, and I'm looking
very
forward.
real.
I'm excited already. I'm saying again, I mean, it's like.
I'm not going to go into time, space, and these ideas. It's even though there's dimensional frequencies and stuff, there's dimensional differences. You've got interdimensional travel, and you've got multidimensional travel. So within the dimension, you've got different dimensions within it. It's not just this space. And space, again, is reified as if it exists. Space, generally, it has no properties. If you expand it, inside an atom is 99.9% space. What's inside that? Why do we believe that the space that we see has stuff in it when an atom doesn't? In their terminology, a molecule has nothing within it. They agree it's 99% empty, 9% empty. Well, space has no quality. Space has no attribute. Space is just a byproduct of the creation of space. What's on the outside of space? What created the space? What inside of a balloon? If the balloon's empty, if the balloon's like this, there's no space in there. When you blow it up, what's holding that? Isn't that the same as an atom? So when with these truths inside of physics of a universe, they have to be universal. They have to be from the smallest, the micro, to the macro. Otherwise, there's a coherent gap. And nature doesn't do that. Creation doesn't do that. The inherently beautiful, and I'm not even close to describe. I can't. It's ineffable. But the brilliance behind the design doesn't leave gaps. There's no gaps. It has to make sense. And it has to be repetitive. It has to be able to be described from the micro to the macro. And if you can't, it's okay. If you're holding something else, that's fine too. But it's not real. And you'll find that out. You'll realize that it wasn't real when you use your real eyes. But as each progresses, then we can see that what is true here must be true there. And this, discernment, people say they can go with and I do it differently. I don't work necessarily on a feeling, but I work on kind of get from there to there, or at least I used to. Kind of get Occam's razor is a great one. Does it make sense? The simplest answer is always the right one until you disprove it. So I've spent years trying to disprove truth until I could no longer disprove it. And I got to the point of there can be no other way. And that was trust. So I created trust by not being able to find an answer. I could find another way. I couldn't find any other way. And this is the same with the universal creation aspects, the micro to the macro. Once you realize that this all fits into a fractal pattern and it allows for unlimited and infinite creation, there can be no other way. Anything else is limiting. You get, again, I'm not trying, I'm just trying to say it from a place of, this is the assuredness in which I speak, my friend. It's not from a place of manipulation or limitation. It's empowerment. It's realizing the equality of all. And that's my perspective, and I'm welcome to it. And that's what I share with others, because it creates equality, benevolence, love, purity, harmony. All of these things sit in there, none of the negative. And that's what I choose.
Brilliant, brother. Brilliant, brother. And I feel we're very, very close in people's consciousness just really opening up. And time doesn't exist, but if we were to work,
it's another paradox. Time doesn't exist because it does in existence. So yes, you're right. Because in let's say the ether exists, but it's not in existence. And in the ether, there is no time, but in existence there is, and time is a measure of distance and magnitude and mass. So time doesn't exist, but it's very real as a measure of distance traveled or distance between. So again, we've got this, we can't sit with one thing, I don't think, with this and say time doesn't exist, because that denies its existence. The concepts of time are man-made, but change the concepts, then we can allow for its existence. We can utilize it for the benevolence and benefit of all, rather than utilize it as a tool to oppress and suppress, which is what it's being used for now. I haven't got enough time. Why not? My priority, I've got to do all of these things, but that's priorities. So we can change all of this by releasing time. When you're no longer working by the clock, time still exists, but not for you.
I think, from my own observation, interpretation, I think if you are happy in yourself and you're really happy in yourself, so you don't like you don't exist in the future or in the past. Because some people are either more in the past or in the future because they just don't like really being who they are. But if you do,
can I just say, let's interject. I did. Many of us have done this. I didn't know who I was. It wasn't. I didn't like. I didn't have a clue how to know who I was, and I existed in both the past and the future because the past meant I could control the future.
Yeah.
This is
but
that control.
But you see, you pampered that part of you that needed that attention to heal, to let go.
See, there was so much blame in the past and so much negative and so much hurt in my story, you know, in the stories that I was creating for myself, that I was controlling the future to negate having that happen again. So the past was extrapolating into the future and bypassing today because I was so busy controlling the future and having enough and not doing this and not making that mistake again. And all of these things that are satanic thinking, they are chaotic. They lead a soul to natural order being a purity. A non-soul, it leads to an unnatural order being a control mechanism through fear and enforcement. Welcome to the experience. Through that unnatural control mechanism, the soul doesn't impart that upon others. The soul doesn't need to control others, but the unnatural does. So these things, my brother, no, it's this release, it's this realization that the past is not what you remember. The past can be whatever you choose it to be. It's just how you remember it in the moment. When you grow, you can release that. You can see it differently. So what you know, she left me and she slept with another man. Yeah.
Okay. Where are you with this concept of like the relationships on a higher dimensional existence? I mean,
I'm looking forward to it.
Because
sorry, I jumped in.
My
not
at all, brother. It's just that I feel that there's not going to be churches and marriages and rings and all that. We're not saying there's anything wrong with that, right? But
no, but it was for a state of consciousness. It was for a time.
So what is relationships going to be like? And how will would there be, what kind of procreation are we talking about? Would it be, you know,
the natural order of things isn't going to change, brother. The natural order of things isn't going to change. It's just the consciousness that will change between it all. So I don't see a massive change in the human experience. In fact, one of my base principles and core principles through this ascension process is the human experience will be maintained. So there's no collapse of the human experience, and there's no huge change of the, you know, into something that the humanity isn't. What there is a change of consciousness and a change of belief. Now, when you know that soul is equal to you and of infinite value, why would you contract to it? You would both, the relationship. What does that mean? You are whole on your own. The only time you would be around another is if they add to you, not take from you. The other should be. This is where two wholes come together and add, going up. Not, you know, the whole system of relationships that we've been indoctrinated into is certainly not that. It has not been that. And the expectation and the needs and the wants have always been, and these sort of things have been ongoing for millennia. This all changes when you are whole and complete, balanced. Now, what does that look like? It's an interesting question.
Do no harm. Now, when it comes to farming and stuff, where do you feel, how will food production take its course? Because I don't know where you are with livestock and things like that.
Well, that's listen, this is a belief for the human constructs. The human collective, not constructs. I am not going to define the use of animals for food at all. I'm not going to define these things because it's not my place to. I will only choose for myself inside that. So what humanity chooses to do as the human consciousness rises is their choice.
Yeah.
I believe that the animal's soul will be represented as more than just an animal or livestock. I believe it will be seen as a part of creation. But let's say, again, the human experience is going to choose what it will choose. The same as I believe that the human experience will choose not to have money in a physical term, in a physical way. I believe that they'll probably go, I would choose digital, but humanity has the choice. It's just this, and it doesn't really impact me. The human collective will learn that souls exist and that they are creators, and that everything on this plane is created, and it's more than we were taught. So as the human collective release this idea of, I'm not going to use words that would be seen to cause breaking through, but as they release the ideas that they were taught, as they change the aspects of what it is and what love is, or what truth is and what energy is, then I believe that there will be an awful lot of, let's say, filtering from what was to what will be, and things will be seen differently, which will mean they will not be treated like they used to be, including relationships. I will say that, brother, without dropping into defining or statements or these ideas. I just will say that the consciousness, i.e. what each and every one sees, will change significantly, and that will cause a huge impact upon the way things were seen before. So we will change all sorts of terminology, and we will move from this Neanderthal. I mean, I've already said in 20 years' time, they'll look back and say, how did you guys survive? That was Neanderthal. You were, we can't even believe that was that. You went through, it will just be such a shock to those in the future to actually see what had happened, should that still maintain itself in the human experience. This is another thing that's quite interesting, is quite experientially. In fact, I'll give you one. Maybe make this the last one, because this could lead into the next one possibly. We were doing an activation, and again, I'm not going to get involved necessarily today in what that is, but an energetic activation involving quite a few. And this was in collaboration with, I'm not even going to give names, but we went to a site in a field, in a woods, and we had to send in we had to ask some divine feminine to go in first to clear the energy. It was to do with I'll give you a little bit more. It was to do with giants and a giant's castle and a giant's tomb, burial ground. They went into this area believing there had been sacrificial murders over the years of Kabbalistic, the ideas, and that this was the energy there. They were very upset as they were feeling the energies and transmuting the energies before we could all go in and then activate what it was that we needed to do. Long story short, I spoke to one of the beautiful feminines afterwards, and I said, were the sacrifices willing? No. Yeah, were they sacrificed willing? Because I was trying to work out what was going on here. Again, I don't believe the hype about making decisions on what was. There's an energetic of fear, and it was, they could feel that it was palpable. But what they felt was it was sacrificial. It had been murder of children, and so I asked, were they willing? And she said, yes and no. In fact, yes, she said, and no. I said, can you please explain? And she said, they didn't want to. It was something they didn't. It was a sacrifice of self. So she was feeling into the experience, she put the overlay on first, assuming it was something else. And then I asked her to question that. And she went into that and said, no, this was a sacrifice of self. And we got to the point where, so historical data says, history says for everybody around there that this was a sacrificial site, and that this is what had happened there. But what had actually happened there was that a very, very beloved loved entity had passed away, and this was the giants. This is the, you know, that had been here they were enabling and helping humanity at the time in the area, and well past that, and they were loved. They were respected greatly, and the people wanted them there, and they died. Whatever happened, and they left. And this was the burial ground, or the mourning ground, where grief was poured into the loss of these non-human entities, or human entities that weren't from this plane, that were aiding and assisting humanity. There was no murder. There was no sacrifice of another. There was a sacrifice of self, because they thought they'd lost something of themselves, and they had to mourn that release. This is the difference between overcasting or overlaying the previous one of sacrificing of children by dark Kabbalists to the loss of somebody that was loved, and the transmutation of that loss of the feeling of grief, as opposed to the feeling of murder. We can change historical data. We can change the narratives. We can change the energies of the molecular in the planet, what's stored within it, and how that is perceived, by changing the narratives, by changing what we think, what we believe. And in that moment, there was a release in the feminine too at the time of, they could see then that was a different energy, even though it's the same emotion. It was the same energy they were feeling. The overlay, what they thought it was different. And now this wasn't a place of darkness, a place of sacrifice. This was a place of grief and love. And that's what was left there now. Not a cleaning of a sacrificial site, but a place of love, where love was poured into those that had shown so much love to humanity. What a beautiful thing, brother.
Beautiful, bro. It's like harmonized, you know. Yeah, there's been a lot of, yeah.
I got tears in my eyes from remembering it now. So even speaking to it with that sort of emotion in it, because it was beautiful, and I didn't feel a sacrificial site there. I didn't feel that. So this is why I felt to question it, and it changed into a sacrifice of self, a love, a grief, a feeling of loss when there is no loss. What a difference. And so the historical narrative and this historical data, especially his story, will just be completely wiped. When we go forward, this will not be this will not be remembered. There will not be a memory, a collective memory of a distortion. This will be purified. The historical narrative and the historical data will not be carried into the new. The fear and the sense of loss and the lack and all of these ideas, this is just imposed upon humanity. It's not true. And that purity is what's going to be replaced, and that's what's going to be moving forward. So this is why I say I don't know how much the new generations will be taught, certainly, or need to be taught about what was experienced, because the field is already purified and they may not need to know. Or it may be taught as an educational tool of the courageous humans that were here, and the souls that were here that were victorious, or not victorious, that came through such a difficult experience, one could say, with honor, courage, pride. No, not pride. Honor, courage, harmony, unity. Rather than this, again, we can change the way we look at all of these things just through choice.
Beautiful, brother. I mean, beautiful. Very, very, very empowering.
Hopefully, brother, this is the point. Right? I'm not trying to. You're my brothers and sisters. Why would I try to disempower? And this is not being made up. You can feel it. That's the difference. Anybody watching this can make their own mind up and feel it. Don't let that take over.
Yes.
Okay. Nearly 2 hours, my friend. I think that's, we can extrapolate on that maybe into another one, into the energies, or whatever you wish. Or maybe it'll be, maybe there won't be another one. We'll see.
Don't say that. No, no. It's a pleasure, brother, and look forward to another session in due course. And in the meantime, keep shining, and really appreciate your presence. And
absolute pleasure. Would you say, brother, that we were somewhere near true to the name of the show today?
And a little bit more possibly on the side.
So was there some illusions possibly dispelled? Good. That's perfect. Yeah. My love to you, brother. My love to you. I'd love to speak to you soon. Love and light to anybody that watches this. We got this. We've all got this. You just got it. What you will do is inevitably make some different choices and unite together. Have a look at gpms.world, guys. With an open heart. Let this go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, bro.